time to relax. How you feeling? You all loose and limber and ready to do this?
Very relaxed.
I can tell. Yes.
Having a
Very.
beverage,
Mm-hmm. Very
kicking
cool.
back in my chair. Life is good.
Excelente. So, we got a few things to talk about for off the clock this time, but I think you have the first subject. Would you like to let everybody know what you did recently, leaving your house like a savage?
Well, I did two things. Which one would you like to know first?
Well, I think I want to know what movie you saw.
Alrighty then. I went out to the theater to see a movie instead of sitting on my couch, and I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine.
Nice. So
It was,
I assume that you are a fan of this series, right? Of these Deadpool films. Is that what
yeah,
attracted you
yeah,
to this
I
one?
they're
Yeah,
funny, you know,
yeah,
sport Canadian actors
yeah.
and Australian actors,
Luck is
part of the
not a
Commonwealth.
superpower.
Yeah,
It's one of
yeah.
my favorite bits
And
from Deadpool too.
yeah, it's the whole series is just sort of is quirky.
hmm
Um,
I feel like that was definitely a highlight of like the Fox Marvel films for sure. Because there's that whole division between like the movies that Fox made with their Marvel licenses versus the Marvel Studios sort of MCU movies, right?
yeah, and the tongue in cheek when you watch these, when they're in this, especially in this one, so many making fun of different production companies and where things
Yeah,
have
because
come and
that's the thing,
gone.
right? Like with this new one, they've kind of been brought into the fold, so to speak, right? So now
Yeah,
Deadpool and Wolverine are part of the MCU
yeah,
again, or for the first time, or however you want to put that. So I know they had a lot of fun with that.
yeah. And Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman were actually, I thought, really good together. They were really funny. Obviously, they're friends in real life because there
Yeah,
was that easy riffing back and
yeah, they
forth.
have mad chemistry for sure.
Yeah. Uh,
I actually
it's
saw them recently on an episode of Hot Ones where they were there doing like the whole eat the spicy chicken wings interview
okay.
thing, and they were great on that. That's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Well, this one they're dealing with sort of time travel, where if you've seen Deadpool 2,
Mhm.
towards the end, there was a time travel element. Have you
Mhm.
seen
Yeah, I've
2?
seen the first
Okay.
the two
So
Deadpool
if
movies.
you
Yeah.
stick through the credits, you're introduced to Brolin's character of Cable,
hmm
and that's how Vanessa comes back
hmm
after being
Yep.
killed. Because a lot of people were like, well, how is she in the third one? I was like,
hmm
guess you didn't
Yes.
sift through the credits.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
But
That's actually a
once
really
again,
cool moment at the end of Deadpool too.
yeah. So in 3, it's, Cable makes a full appearance, and he's hunting for a mutant that's going to do something in the future.
hmm
So it's
Sort of like the classic Days of Future Past
yeah.
timeline
Actually,
thing
I was
from the
thinking of
comics. Yeah.
what was that Tom Cruise movie? Was it Minority Report, or is
Well,
it called
there,
they fight?
yeah, Minority Report is like the whole precognition thing, like where they can predict who's going to kill somebody before they
Yeah,
commit the
okay. So I
crime.
got the movie right. It was kind of like that. Well, that's what he was doing. Although this is like a personal
hmm Yeah.
vendetta.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when they start off, um, Cable doesn't really want anything to do with Deadpool. He just wants this one character who I won't say anything. And at the time, Deadpool's lost all his powers because he's got this collar on him that
Okay. Yeah.
inhibits, and that's
Yeah.
when I guess when you're arrested by the anti-mutant police or whatever, that's how they control you. You can't use your powers with
Right.
this special collar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but he still tries to help out this other person. Um, and anyways, things happen, and as anyone can figure out, the collar breaks,
Hmm.
and he's no longer collared, and he becomes Deadpool. And anyways, that's the whole sort of gist of it. Is Deadpool's trying to help this other mutant who's being hunted by Cable, and so what better idea than to get backup?
Hmm.
And so he goes and hunts Wolverine. And that it's kind of funny because, of course, using time travel and stuff
Yeah.
to see all these Wolverines. So you see all these
Yeah, yeah, right.
different,
Because this is like a obviously this is like an alternate version of Wolverine, right? Because if you're familiar with the Fox Marvel movies, then you of course have seen Logan, and you know how
yeah,
the traditional version of Wolverine that you would have known from the X-Men movies ended up.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
so you
yeah.
see all sorts of ones, and there's some tongue-in-cheek versions of them,
Hmm. Yeah.
and they play around for fun. And anyways, he finds them, and as the title is, they hook up, and off they go. And
Hmm.
a lot of your usual Deadpool hilarity ensues.
Antics. Are there lots
Yeah,
of antics? I will be really disappointed if there aren't lots of antics.
there's lots of antics, lots of carnage. Uh, yeah, it was fun. I mean, Deadpool, you either like Deadpool or you don't,
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
he's
thing.
a very polarizing character for sure. But I
Yeah,
but I think one thing I think most people can agree on, whether you're a fan of the Deadpool character or not, is that Ryan Reynolds pretty much is Deadpool, right? Like
yeah,
there's no way anybody else could do that character any better than he could, like love him or
yeah,
hate him, right? Like that's
yeah,
he nails that. So like absolutely, it's like undeniable.
yeah. It's just
Yeah.
it's that self-effacing humor, the sarcasm. It's yeah. And there couldn't have been a more perfect role for him, other than maybe Green Lantern.
Hmm.
That was a joke.
Yeah, yeah. No. Well, and I know they probably have some fun about the original incarnation of Deadpool, as they did in the
Yeah,
previous movies. Yeah.
as they do Green Lantern,
Hmm.
but you'll
Uh,
have to watch the movie to see the joke that
nice,
actually
nice.
I was sort of mentioning. But
Yeah. Dropping a little hint there.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I liked it. I don't
Hmm.
know if it would be my favorite of the Deadpools because it's really hard to beat. I mean, when you watch one,
Yeah.
you've never
One
seen
is
anything
pretty
like it.
One is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
And
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 it
I
was
like
so new.
two for its own reasons, but it's not the same as one. But that's a good
Yeah,
thing in my mind, right? Like I wouldn't
yeah,
have wanted them to just remake the first one again. So
yeah,
it's cool that two is different from one, but
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so yeah, it's like anything when you get that initial wow, what did I just watch?
Yeah,
You're never gonna capture that again. But I think
for
they've
sure.
done the first ones. I mean, I think my jaw dropped when I was watching the first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm sure the insertion of Wolverine into it, with it being Hugh Jackman returning to the role and all of that, probably does a lot to help boost that movie. I
yeah,
can't imagine that it doesn't, right? Because there's just so much potential there that I'm sure that they capitalized on. Uh, that I can't imagine that not working to at least some degree.
yeah. So it's so hard with this one because it's so recently new out because when Deadpool's out looking for uh Logan. and he finds the one alliteration of Logan where he's dead,
Hmm.
and there's a whole thing there,
Yeah.
and it's a segue to like some multiple violent deaths that I think we're just like, oh, we'll put it in there. And once again, sort of tongue in cheek and funny, but
Hmm.
also extremely violent. But
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, it's
Yeah, from what I understand, they did not skimp on the R rating with this one.
yeah,
They got their
yeah.
mileage out of that.
Although at the beginning he does ensure us that it is a family movie.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he
Like,
does.
yeah,
I'm
he's
sure he does.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out, but I'm not sure exactly when that's going to happen.
yeah. But it's always funny with the whole what they keep bringing like the X-Men
Hmm.
universe in right from the beginning, because it's I can't think of his name now. The Russian metal man,
Colossus.
Colossus,
Yeah.
and uh like he's in everyone,
Hmm.
you know, and
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they heavily leveraged him throughout the Deadpool movies for sure.
yeah,
So I would have been surprised if he didn't show up.
yeah. So it's yeah. Uh,
Nice.
it's just anything I say now is gonna like spoil anything for
Yeah,
anyone
yeah, yeah.
else.
No, we covered
I
it, I
think we've
think.
covered, but it's good. But yeah,
It's
the whole
good.
Deadpool idea. I mean, as like the first one, sort of the romantic side, where it's like they have a budding romance between two unlikely people who are sort of in the dark side of society, and then finds out he's dying of a disease, and an experiment that goes wrong
Hmm.
that turns him into to that was I thought sort of clever,
Hmm.
and turn him into that sort of tongue in cheek. And then his buddy, I mean, his I feel safer talking about the original one because so many of the characters are all the same,
Hmm.
so it doesn't hurt. But the his sidekick that
The
handles the
driver.
bar.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
there's him as well, the taxi driver.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but TJ, I can't think of his last name, the actor, but he's the bartender, his buddy who gives him job offers and stuff all the time.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He's in it. He's funny, and then he has uh the blind woman that
His roommate.
yeah, that
Yeah.
some of the stuff they say is so raunchy. It's just
Hmm.
and it's funny coming from sort of an older blind woman kind of thing. And but yeah, yeah, it's all the characters are like funny. It's obviously now I'm gushing like a fanboy. As I was
Yeah, I was
almost like
gonna say, who's the fanboy now, Ron?
yeah, sort of the perfect
Yeah,
character meshing in
yeah,
this thing. So,
yeah.
as I said, I know some people aren't huge fans and whatever, but I think they really did a good job with this one.
Well, and here's something I think is worth mentioning about that, and I think it kind of works in both of our cases, right? When I was talking about Dark Tower stuff, and now you talking about this, I think things that people end up really loving, for everybody who loves those things, there's somebody who doesn't like them so much, right?
Yeah,
Like that's kind of what creates fandoms, right? Is it something is so specific or so dialed into a person's particular taste that inevitably it's not going to be to somebody else's taste, but that just means it becomes sort of special and like resonates with that person that it is aligned with even more, right? Because
yeah,
you feel like it's for you because it's not this like homogenized like box checking like one size fits all kind of thing, right? And
yeah,
that's I think a lot of the things that people are most like passionate about or most into aren't necessarily for everyone, and that's fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So if you're into Deadpool and Wolverine is is a good one.
Nice.
It's because I just watched. God, it started to get confusing, the whole sort of X-Men world kind of thing. That's which
Oh, there's
the
so many movies at
I
this
know
point.
the
Yeah.
is it Logan?
Well, Logan is like the swan song, right? That was supposed to be the end of Hugh Jackman playing that role, right? That's the one where he's like the limo driver and he's got Xavier with him, and Xavier's like losing his stuff because he's
Yeah.
going
Okay,
crazy, can't
wasn't that
control
one.
himself
That's a
anymore.
good one too. It's the
Yeah, I
one
mean
where he goes to Japan to meet the guy he saved,
that's the Wolverine.
the Wolverine.
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
second standalone Wolverine movie. Yeah.
Yeah, because I watched that one recently.
Yeah, that's a good
As
one.
I yeah,
Yeah.
and it just sort of to prepare myself because I knew the this one would be coming. So I just
Hmm.
wanted to get myself into the whole sort of Wolverine thing.
Yeah.
Started making me think about because when we talked about a while back the animated series
Uh-huh.
of
Yeah.
the X-Men, I said I should go back and watch that and sort of see the whole all the characters again
Mhm. Well,
because
because a lot of
it's
the things that you mentioned, well, I mean, obviously, all this stuff comes from the comics, right? But a lot of things that you mentioned, like the collars that like control their powers and stuff
yeah,
like that was prominently featured in the animated series and stuff
yeah,
like that. So, like, that's you'd be right at home with some of those concepts for sure.
yeah, yeah. Oh, and there's a big character reveal
Hmm.
introduction, which is really cool. I didn't know who it was going to be. So
Yeah. Okay, we probably dorked out enough. We probably want to
yeah,
move it on along here. But yeah, good time. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's a
yeah.
good
No, it was
sign for
fun.
me, I
It was
think.
a, and I had a big box of popcorn, which was different than my or off my diet schedule, but guys got to live.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
Exactly.
Nice. Well, speaking of popcorn and food, I had something a little different I wanted to talk about for off the clock this time, which is cooking. Because I thought it would be fun to talk about some things that we do that are a little different from the things we normally talk about. And one of the things that I really enjoy and like to do when I'm not playing video games or reading books or listening to music or all those other things is cooking. Are you a fan of cooking? Do you enjoy cooking?
I used to. I used to actually be quite proficient,
Hmm.
but I don't do as much anymore.
Yeah, I don't do as much as I used to either, but it's definitely something that I have like fond memories of and like have always like embraced. So like one thing that is for me is like I really enjoy cooking like for parties because I used to
Okay.
do like a lot of get-togethers and stuff like that where I'd make like a lasagna or like a big pot of chili, right? Or like a
Okay.
big like a tray of like burritos or something like that, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
you're cooking to feed an army basically.
Okay.
And like that's probably my favorite kind of cooking to do. And then also along those lines, I really enjoy baking, like cakes and pies and things like any kind of baking, I think
Okay.
is cookies, brownies, any of that sort of thing. I'm really into that.
You make bread?
I have not done that. Well, okay, I have done that, but it's been a very long time. It was like my college days was the last time I made bread. Because back then, a buddy and I of mine and I were really into it, and we made like homemade pasta and sauce from scratch. And we brewed like beer and wine and things like that. And so back then we used to do bread with those kind of meals. But that was more of
Okay.
like a team effort where like the two of us were kind of doing it together. Um, that's not something that I've done by myself a lot.
For me, I'm a bit different. I wasn't really uh I didn't really, well, I never really did it, but to cook for a bunch of people, no real interest to me. My interest was experimentation. I wanted to come up with like dishes and see if I
Mhm.
could do just how I liked them and stuff. And so like experimented a lot.
Mhm.
So after we were discussing this segment that we were going to be doing, I searched through a bunch of my drawers in the kitchen, digging for something, and I
Uh,
found this,
nice.
the Black Book.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wrong topic. Sorry. Just
It can be more than one thing.
yes. So I opened up to take a look at it. So pathetic. But here you go. I don't know if you can read it. It
Yeah.
says Ron's recipes.
Yeah,
And look
nice.
how cleverly I did it in like balloon letters. I guess at that time when I first did it, I thought doing things in balloon letters was fun.
It's your version of Comic Sans.
I guess it's like Ron's recipes in balloon. I don't even remember doing that. But I have quite a few recipes that I came up with. Originally, what I would do is as I experimented, I would write it on a piece of paper. And then if it turned out well, or if I had to do it again to do it, once I thought it was good enough that I would try it again or serve it to somebody, I wrote it in this black book.
That's nice. Nice.
Would
I
you
dig
like to
it.
know some of my
Yeah,
recipes?
give me like some highlights. What are some of your bangers?
Okay, well, I have and I made these ridiculous titles for some reason too. Don't know
Excellent.
why. So I have my first one I have on this page that I seem to have that I'm happy was Scronald's barbecue special sauce. So
All
apparently
right.
I have the barbecue sauce. I have James German Heritage roast beef.
Nice.
Uh oh, this one I got a big X through it. It says Ron's Hearty Chili, but it's
Uh,
got a big X. I guess
must
it
not have
didn't turn out.
must not have made the cut.
Yeah. I have the Weight Watchers Luncheon Special.
Nice.
I guess I came up with something for I have famous fried chicken.
Everybody got to have their famous fried chicken recipe, that's for sure.
I got a special beef stroganoff.
Nice.
I don't know what's special about it. Oh, I have my homesick cheesecake.
Nice.
Trying to open it now. Hmm.
Well, one thing that I have decided to do, I'm gonna really put myself out on a limb here, but I figure this might be a fun thing for everybody, is I was going through some of my baking recipes and I found one of my favorites that I spent a lot of time on, did a lot of iterations on it over the years for what's called a buttered mochi. Which those of you who aren't familiar with what that is, it's basically a Polynesian dessert that is based off of mochiko flour, which is sort of rice flour instead of wheat-based flour. And it's served very often in Hawaii in a variety of forms. And I have what I think is a pretty banging recipe for like the sort of foundation mochi that you use to kind of as the basis for a lot of those Polynesian desserts. So I am going to put it in the show notes. If anybody would like to give it a whirl, that is probably one of my better baking recipes that I will share with all of you as part of this fun little adventure.
And stay tuned when Ron and Michael open up our own restaurant, and we'll invite you all to come and spend your money at it.
Nice. We need to increase our revenue streams for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we should start like our own cooking channel.
Nice.
Trying to look for anything that's really interesting.
You're not going to see anything of him for the next 10 minutes as he looks through his recipe book and reminisces.
Yeah. I have something called salt-free mush.
Oh my.
I don't even know
That
what it
doesn't have
is.
an X through
No,
it.
no. It's
Wow.
got like
Set of stars.
lentils, potatoes, onions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spicy beef curry stew. Boy. Oh, talk about bread. Ron's homemade bread. There you go.
Yeah. There you go.
I knew I did it. I didn't actually know
Wrote it down.
if I had it. Oh,
Yeah.
here's a wannabe maple corn steak.
Oh.
That was actually a hit back in the day. It's kind of like this maple corn uh glaze
Yeah.
sauce.
There
Anyways,
you
I
go.
better put this away or I'll just keep looking through it. But yeah, cooking was it could be pretty fun once you get into it.
I think that's the key, right? You have to get over that initial hurdle of, any intimidation or like lack of confidence that you might have about it, right? Like you have to do it enough that you get comfortable with it and then it becomes
Yeah,
super fun. Yeah.
yeah. I think the real key is you have to have the ingredients easily right because it's daunting when you're first like if you're just like never really cook anything, then you're kind of like, oh, it needs this. Do I have that? Oh, I don't
Oh
got
yeah,
that.
preparation is essential for
Yeah,
sure.
and to
Yeah.
buy, to try to do it all at once, like, oh, you got
Mhm.
to buy rosemary, got to buy oregano, got to buy this, got to buy that. If you
Well, I
don't
think
have
that's
it,
why meal kits have become so popular, right? That whole idea of like they send you a box that has everything you need in it, and
yeah,
then you just do the preparation, right? It's no wonder why things like that have taken off.
yeah, yeah. But we have a big, well, when you've been around as long as I have, you've accumulated stuff. So I got a lot. When you open up we have a spice drawer and you open up, all the spices are there, but
Mhm.
but over time. So it's not like, you just replenish as needed. But yeah, when you're going out and some of these recipes, you're like so many ingredients that just the spices cost you a fortune.
Oh, yeah, that stuff is expensive. Filling out a spice rack from scratch in
Yeah,
2024, you better take out a loan.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but but yeah, it's fun and healthy. Well, depending on
Mhm.
what you make.
Well,
But
that's
even
that's a
whatever it is
very
you
your
make,
mileage may vary on that one.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
still healthier than eating out.
Yes, for the most part, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because big surprise. Well, I guess it shouldn't have really been, but as things been hectic for us here lately, there was one day where we were gonna have dinner, and then it was just like we didn't have the energy to do anything. And Martha said, "Do you want to just order?" I said,
Yeah.
"Okay." So we ordered Chinese. Now I did my full workout, my morning workout and my evening workout, all my normal stuff I ate during the day as I'm supposed to. The only difference was just at dinner, we didn't have a normal dinner. We had Chinese food.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't and I didn't snack at all afterwards. Like I didn't have any
That's really impressive because Chinese food, you're always hungry like 20 minutes later.
exactly. So I just didn't have any. Well, my trick now is I have cranberry juice. I sip on
Mhm.
cranberry juice. It gives me something to do where I pretend it's like popcorn and
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
it up
nice.
and but after everything, I actually gained a pound
Hmm.
from that Chinese food. And it's like, it looks like it's just vegetable stuff. I mean, there were like chicken balls and there
Sure.
was those little spare ribs.
That's how they get you.
Yeah. But it's the rice. It's just the rice. And then there's like the egg rolls are mostly like
Vegetables.
shoots and leaves or whatever they put in there with a bit of maybe
Yeah.
pork.
Although an egg roll is deep fried, so that's where they
Yeah.
get you, right?
Yeah.
That's the whammy.
Yeah. But yeah, I was so surprised. But I thought, well, it was an experiment because well, I had everything except that. So I got on the scale just to look the next one, and I was like, my God, I didn't lose a pound. I didn't stay even. I actually gained a pound. And I was like, what the heck are they putting in Chinese food that would give me so many calories to put that much weight on?
Yeah,
Not that it was like, wow, it's only a pound. But when you're trying to lose it, a pound seems like the end of the world.
sure, sure.
So
But
so
as we've talked about before, right? Like your mileage may vary, but I always feel like it's not healthy or good to like emphasize weight as the only metric of your health, right?
oh
Like,
yeah.
weight is important, there's a lot of other factors to consider too. And like, a little extra weight isn't necessarily a bad thing, also, but
Have,
it's a combined effect. But
have you
I
seen her
get where you're coming from.
video from
What's
Pittsburgh?
that?
Have you seen her video of Pittsburgh when we're on the couch together?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, weight can be bad. 'Cause I look at it and I'm like, what the hell? I don't look that big. That camera's putting on like 40 extra pounds on me.
Uh,
But I know what you mean.
yeah. No,
Because you
I
could
just
transfer it to muscle, which is heavy as well.
yes, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Muscle weighs more than fat. Everybody knows that. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, I just hate to see anybody like go too far down that rabbit hole, right? Like, is you can definitely sabotage yourself exclusively focusing on weight is the only point I was trying to
Oh
make.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Good times though.
Yeah. What would be your
Well,
go-to meal
oh, phew. Well,
if you were
if
on
it's
a
something that I'm gonna cook myself,
uh
or like what do I
no,
like to have served to
just
me?
any meal. If
Just
you were
anything.
on like you're going to the Kingston Penitentiary tomorrow
Yeah, yeah.
and here's your meal, what would it be, do you think?
Well, I'm pretty basic when it comes to stuff like that. So I mean, for me, like my two like go to like favorite things to consume as a general rule
Uh,
would be pizza and Mexican.
oh, that's
So some sort of like Mexican platter kind of thing, or like a really banging pizza would probably do me just fine in most
yeah.
circumstances.
That's almost actually bang on with me. My son and I were talking about it, and after a much debate, because we were flip-flopping because of pizzas we both love, but we both when we had to put to the test and had to do it, we both said that it would probably be tacos. Would
Hmm.
probably be what
Mhm.
we'd go with.
Yeah, I like a good burrito.
Yeah,
That's probably my favorite sort of Mexican variant. Uh, but yeah, it's tough to pick just one thing. It's funny because like when I was a kid or when I was younger, I always had favorites for everything. I'm like, oh, this is my favorite movie. This is my favorite song. This is my favorite
yeah,
video game, whatever, right? Like, but I think that's just a thing that naturally happens as you get older, is like as you get exposed to more and more things, it's harder to pick a favorite, right? Because
yeah,
you've had more experience and it's like, oh man, how do I really pick between these things? They're all awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Spoiled with choice.
There you go.
Well, uh, if you haven't had enough of us and you want more, we do have one more thing to talk about, which you recently did. You want to let everybody know why I just said more three times?
Well, as I mentioned, went out twice this past month. Once to a movie, once to a concert, and it was actually a surprise concert because I wasn't originally going, but these tickets sort of fell into our laps, and it was a double feature: Billy Idol and Platinum Blonde.
Nice.
And it was a really good show. Um, I was actually a fan of Generation X back in the
Hmm.
day, and he actually it played two of the songs, "Night of the Cadillac" and "Dancing with Myself," which
Oh,
was
nice. Yeah.
fun. Um, try actually, I wrote down his. did he do the encores?
It's funny because
He was
I had
go
talked
ahead.
about that Lowell Tolhurst memoir that I read on the show a while back, and tells a really funny Billy Idol like Generation X story in that book, which I
Oh, really?
won't spoil. But yeah, it's I always anytime anybody mentions Generation X now, I always think of that little excerpt from that book.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, didn't mean to
It
derail you.
well yeah, it was like Platinum Blonde opened up. And I don't well, being in Ottawa, a lot of people from Ottawa knew who Platinum Blonde was because they were a Canadian band.
Hmm.
But even if you didn't hear them, I'm sure you'd know the songs. But they got the crowd rocking. Where a lot of times, if you're going to see someone like Billy Idol, kind of like an
Yeah,
iconic,
it's a hard act to open for. Yeah,
yeah, people just sit there and stare or just like, just put Billy on,
yeah, yeah.
But they really got the crowd going, and they finished up with their three strongest songs too, which has had the whole place rocking, which I guess has had people really energized for like
Hmm.
Billy kind of thing. So they played Situation Critical, Crying Over You, and then Doesn't Really Matter.
Nice.
Are you familiar with Platinum Blonde at all,
Yeah,
or?
well, I mean those songs. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
And they're all and because when they played their set list, it was like, man, they had so many good songs.
Hmm.
But these three were so strong that it had so when and it's funny because they break down the whole Platinum Blonde thing and then rebuild, push forward what they have set up already for Billy Idol. So you have to
Sure.
wait like half an hour before.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think it was strong enough that everyone was still psyched. So when the lights went down and then Billy came out, it the momentum was there.
yeah.
So and then he was I found, to be honest, at first when he first came on, I thought it was like showing his age. Like I was
Uh-huh.
kind of worried. I was like, oh, because I know he's only in his, I think, like late 60s, so not super old, but
Yeah, but
older.
his stuff kind of demands a lot of the voice, right? And of the energy
Yeah,
level, right? He's
yeah,
very high energy. So
yeah.
like, yeah, if he was
Well, that
having an
was the
off
thing.
night or something, yeah,
I
that could
thought he'd
hurt.
be stomping around and like, doing whatever, but he kind of was almost like he was limping at the
Hmm.
beginning, kind of around. He was walking slow. Now I
Hmm.
know he had that big motorcycle accident, but that was like decades ago.
Right.
But I
Yeah,
don't know
but
if it's
you might end
still,
up feeling that, decades later. Yeah.
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 But so I was kind of worried, but his voice was strong.
Hmm.
Um, there was a few points I noticed that it didn't affect his voice, but I could tell uh like breathing,
Hmm.
he was having issues at some points. Like he'd be like, uh just for anything, this is not accurate, but just for an example, he'd be like, it goes, money, 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 money. And then he'd kind of like miss like a word, like as
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
like
he's catching his
kind of
breath.
gasp
Yeah.
for breath kind of thing.
Yeah.
But backup singers would kick in and stuff. But I did notice there was a few times where he just kind of,
Yeah.
it was probably the hard partying days,
Yeah.
I
Well, I mean,
suspect.
I think that's to be expected. I don't think there's anything shocking or surprising about that.
No,
Um,
but
Especially
it was
those
just
like
so,
rockers, right? Like those ones where you really got to belt it out. Yeah.
yeah. But it was just noticeable on the certain things where a lot of people, like if you go see the Who or stuff, like where there's things that you can't hit, they have these
Hmm.
backup singers that go in fluidly. This just seemed kind of off. But then as the concert, after a few songs, he started to, like gain
He like warmed up.
his wind. Yeah. And he
Yeah.
got going, got going, got going. And then, for the encore, he ended up with Dancing with Myself, Hot in the City, and White Wedding. And
Yeah.
he was
Nice.
full on energetic at that point. It's like he was feeling it from the crowd. And it was almost like at first I was thinking, oh, he was all pissed off that Platinum Blonde just literally blew the place up or something.
You're
I didn't know.
inventing this scenario. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, then he came on and it was a really good show. It was just, well, it was so nostalgic for me because it was just like
Hmm.
huge 80s bands playing.
Hmm.
But yeah,
What
it was a really good time.
I will say too, with regard to him anyway, being more familiar with his discography, I've actually been really impressed with a lot of his more modern stuff. Like he's put out a couple albums in recent years that I would say
Yep,
are among his best, right? Like that
yep,
Kings and Queens of the Underworld album. I think it was like 2015 he put that out. And then he put another one out just a couple of years ago. I think it might have been an EP. I don't think it was a full length album, but I think it had like five or six pretty banging songs on it called The Cell or The Cage, I think it's called. Both of those were pretty impressive, I thought, especially, for his age. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
he's still got it for sure as a
Oh yeah,
songwriter and a singer, at least in the
yeah,
studio. Yeah.
yeah. No, he was good. You just tell that he's, you know, could have been battling a cold as well. But I mean, generally overall,
Yeah, I mean
he was really
that's the
good.
thing, right? Like anybody can have an off night,
Yeah,
that's for sure. Yeah.
yeah. But it wasn't that off. That was just the one thing. It was just with the breathing.
Yeah, it
Because I
took
guess
him a while to get going. Yeah.
I was like worried for him. I was thinking, oh, hopefully he's not
Yeah.
like fighting COVID or something kind of
Yeah.
thing.
No, that's good. He pulled it together.
Yeah,
I mean, and to be fair, right? Like the last time I saw Rush, you know, Getty's voice was not what it was back in the 70s or the 80s,
yeah,
right? Like it's just how it is.
yeah. It's yeah, it's I don't know. Well, if you've heard the song that he does with Miley Cyrus,
I might have.
Night
That might have been
Night
on that EP. Um,
Night Crawlers is what it's called. And it's
yeah,
actually a really good song.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have heard that or not.
yeah, you should check that out. It's called like Night Crawlers, and it's Miley Cyrus and Billy Idol, and this kind of wouldn't say it's a
Duet.
duet because they each have their parts kind of thing.
They're sort of
One
like
part's the
trading
other
vocals.
parts.
Yeah,
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 and it's a real catchy song. I don't know who wrote it,
yeah.
but they do it together, and it's really cool.
Nice. That's good. Glad you had a good time. Sounds like it was rocking, as
Yeah,
one would hope.
yeah. It's just as I said, it was kind of fell into my lap, and then I didn't even know Platinum Blonde was opening for it until that day. I just said,
It
"Oh,
was a
I'm going
nice
to see
little
Billy Idol,"
surprise.
and
Yeah,
I was kind of like, "I wonder who's opening for them." And then I looked and went, "Oh my God, Platinum Blonde! So this is going to be
yeah,
a great double bill."
yeah. Nice.
So
Yeah, that was a band I had not thought of in ages until I saw you post about it. And I'm like, wow, that's a blast from the past.
yeah, and still really strong voice,
Nice.
Platinum Blonde. Like you wouldn't find any real difference. Well,
Yeah,
maybe a bit, but yeah, they
yeah.
still got it. So I expect them being on tour and stuff, they're probably going to be doing something new.
Uh,
But
nice.
yeah. So if they ever be coming through your town, wherever you are watching this, you should check them out. But I don't know who if Billy Idol's like if different places he has different opening acts. I should have looked that up.
Yeah, be interesting to know if they were with him for that whole tour, if that was just a couple of dates or what. Yeah,
Yeah, because if it was I mean, that'd be it's a really strong tour if those two are opening like are playing together through it
yeah.
everywhere. But I figured, maybe they're in the States. There's probably lots of
Well, that's what I was
indie
going to say
bands.
is I think you might be onto something with them being a Canadian band because
Yeah,
I definitely know like I'm aware of them, but I don't think they ever had like the impact down here that they
yeah,
had up there. I would say is maybe fair to say.
yeah. They were all like all over Much Music. They
Hmm.
were like Much Music darlings.
Yeah.
So,
All righty. Well, you ready to wrap this thing up? I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here.
yep. I'm exhausted just talking about all the exciting things I do.
Yeah,
And now I want to go downstairs and do some cooking.
excellent. Mission accomplished.
There you go.
All right, well, we will see you all next time. Hasta la vista.
Thanks for dropping by.